All right, we got the F-150 in the garage. As you can see, it's a pretty tight fit. She takes up a lot more room than an old 46 did. But anyway, like I said before, this is our tow vehicle. So she's in need of some repairs to make her safer. I'm going to put new front brakes on, which I've ordered rotors and pads for it. This past winter, I put the rear brakes on, new parking brake and all that. And I did it in the driveway. I never want to have to do that again. We might have to put the front brakes on in the driveway. I don't know. We'll have to see. Pretty tight. It's got a slight exhaust leak, which is really no big deal, but we're going to go ahead and take care of it while we got her in here. But the biggest thing I want to do today, she's got rust. She sure does. The same spot on the passenger side and a little bit there on the access door for the club cab part of it. She is a 2006 F-150 V6 two-wheel drive. I haven't owned a lot of Fords in my life, few, but I got a great deal on this truck. It only has like 102,000 miles on it. Pretty awesome for a truck that's almost 20 years old. So I'm going to try to extend her life as long as I can. It's got one of those preformed bed liners in here. Tailgate's pretty beat up. We're going to go ahead and spray some bed liner on that. Yeah, so basically today we're just going to do some metal patching. A lot of scrap metal left over from when we were working on the 46, so I think we've got enough to patch in these spots. I want to go down and get some rust reformer and some black paint, and we're going to go ahead and start the body work on this. All right, we might as well get started here on the driver's side. We got this one spot. It's pretty bad. We've got a plastic piece on the bottom here that I think does nothing but hold water. That's probably why that rusted out like that. Got a little bit of rust here starting. Probably grind that off and fill that too. So we'll get started by taking this piece of plastic off and then see what we got to work with. Wow, she's pretty bad. Well, to say that's going to be a challenge is an understatement. But we got to do what we got to do. Patch her up. So we're just going to cut some sheet metal, fit it in there, and give her a quick paint job. Alright, we're just going to go ahead and paint up inside there with this rust encapsulator, just for a little more protection against the elements. Okay, so we got our piece of metal. I put a bunch of relief cuts in the side, bent it over, and I think it should work pretty good. I do a little more trimming here, but not bad to matching the curve of the bottom. Again, I'm not going for perfection. We're just trying to get as many years out of this truck as we can. So let me tweak on this a little bit more, and maybe we can get tacking it in. Alright, didn't turn out too bad. We got some creative filling to do here, but other than that, I think with a little more grinding, we'll have to cut a little patch for that. But all in all, I think it follows the curve good, and it looks better than a big old rust hole. Alright, we got our last coat of mud on it. Once it dries, we'll sand it all out. Throw some primer on it, and we're going to go ahead and paint the whole bottom of the truck from this line down. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so yesterday we got our patches cut out. New metal put in. Passenger side. Panel on our door. I started sanding. Probably what we're going to do is pull this thing out of here so there's a little more room to work as long as the rain holds up. And finish sanding this out, clean the truck down, and start taping it off the areas that we want to paint. So let's get started doing something. We'll get that tailgate sprayed with the bed liner and move on from there. So went and scuffed down our tailgate with the scuffing pad. We're going to wipe it down with a little wax and grease remover, and we're using this Rust-Oleum truck bed liner coating stuff. So let's do it, man. Alright, we got 2 good coats on it. I think that should be enough. We'll let that set up and see what it looks like. Alright, we got the truck all cleaned up. We're going to go ahead and start masking off the areas that we're going to paint and do the rest of the sanding, priming, and shooting some paint on this baby. So the truck is all taped off. I went through with a Scotch-Brite and stuffed up all the paint, everything that's going to get painted, let's put it that way. Primed and wet sanded our spots, 600 grit. I'm going to go hit it with wax and grease remover, and we're going to start shooting some color. We're going to be shooting with this Rust-Oleum with a fancy tip on it. I've never used it before. We're going to find out how it does. Seems to come out pretty good. That's our first tack coat we put on. We'll let it dry for, I don't know, 10 minutes and we'll hit it again. All right, this time around, I think we're going to go with a much wetter coat. So set up for about 10 minutes and see what we got, man. I gotta tell you, I do like the fan pattern on this. Works out much better than a regular spray can. Okay, that's 2 coats. It don't look too bad. I mean, the bodywork's not the greatest, but so far it looks pretty good. And what's more important is no big rust holes. We got enough in that can probably to do another coat, another good coat. So this side here is where the big whammo in that door was. I halfway thought about doing the bottom of this truck with the bed liner, but I don't know how stupid that would look. That actually dried up pretty good. Doesn't look too bad. We'll see. We'll get the 3rd coat on, see what it looks like. Well, guys, I probably could have and should have spent a little more time on body work, but this is my daily driver work truck. Just wanted to spruce it up, extend the life of it a little bit. I am a fan of that Rust-Oleum, this right here, the 5-in-1. The fan pattern on this can sprays pretty good. Not as good as a regular auto sprayer, but I'll tell you what, it does a pretty decent job. Don't look bad. The rust holes are covered up. I'm good with that. All in all, pretty happy with the paint job as it is. I hate looking at rust holes in vehicles. Just bothers me, so I had to patch them up. We'll get the truck back inside the garage and wait on our rotors and pads, which will probably be here tomorrow, and we'll get back on her. Okay, so today's the day we're going to put front brakes on the old F-150. It's kind of cramped here in the garage, so we're going to take it up in the driveway and do it. It's not ideal, but at least it's a nice day, and we'll get this taken care of. Okay, we got her jacked up. Let's dig in. The top bolt on the caliper came out relatively easy. The bottom one, not so much. It's frozen in there. I've been going back and forth between penetrating oil and a little bit of heat, not a lot. Try to loosen this thing up, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get this off. A couple of things are going to happen. The head of the bolt's going to round off, the bolt's going to snap off, or it's going to come loose. Okay, here's an update. As predicted, it snapped the bolt off inside that slider. So luckily Napa had some in stock. So, oh, and by the way, in case you wanted to know, the nut on this spindle is a 36 millimeter. Okay, new rotor is on. They recommend that you don't reuse the spindle nut, but I think with all that kind of stuff, it's just a common sense thing. It also recommends that you torque it to 295 foot-pounds. This particular rotor has loaded bearings in it, new pads, new hardware, and our caliper. So this side is pretty much done. We'll go and repeat the process on the other side. All right, we got the caliper off. Much easier on the passenger side. Bolts came right out, no problem. So the only other thing we gotta do is take this bracket off. 2 bolts back here. When I get ready to put this thing back together, I'll bring y'all back in and we'll put it together so you can see somewhat of how it should be done, or how I do it anyway. Let's put it that way. I think you can buy the complete kit, brake pads with hardware and all that. This kit did not come with any hardware, so we got to reuse the old stuff. These sliders should be taken off and, clean behind it, because I'm going to clean these up good with a wire brush, and we're going to put some anti-seize on there. The sliders will just come right out of this boot with a little bit of persuasion. You don't want to rip the boot, but you just pry back a little bit, and just like that. You can pull these sliders right out. I got new ones, so we'll go ahead and grease up the new ones, put them back in. This one here has that anti-rattle, whatever, piece of rubber on there. So I think, you know what, I think we're going to keep this one in here because they don't even give you the rubber. They don't even give you the rubber piece that goes on there. And you can't get this one off. That one's kind of like stamped on there, and you just destroy it if you tried to get it off. So we're going to leave this one. It's in good shape. The bolt backed out of it. No issues there, so we're going to reuse that one. But we will change the other one just because we have it. And we do have 2 new caliper bolts. So we'll put the new bolts in. Save the old ones, don't throw them away, because you never know. I'm just using this here Permatex anti-seize lubricant. Works pretty good for brakes. That's all I use. Get that in there, spin it a little bit, get all that lube in there good. Stick our new one, grease that up. Slide this baby in. Make sure they seat down on the boot, that's all. Good to go. All we do is just wire brush off these tins, and we'll lube them up too. This is where your brake pads are going to slide back and forth, so get a little lubricant down there. Just like that. That's one heavy rotor. See, our backing plate's totally gone. All good though. Alright, so here are the pads. And this is what they do not give you. These things here, they're to keep the pads off the rotor. These are the separator springs, supposed to keep the pads apart off the rotor or whatever. It just keeps these pads separated. Just go ahead and compress our caliper and we'll stick it on there. I bought this at Harbor Freight like, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. Paid like $6 for it. So the idea is to compress both these pistons at the same time. I just put an old brake pad in there and we're just going to compress them both. And basically just tighten it down until it stops. That's pretty much it. So she should technically slide right on there, huh? That is pretty much it. So we're just going to go ahead and hit that rotor with some brake clean because I got some anti-seize on there. We'll get it cleaned off, fill the tire back on, and we'll be good with the brakes. Okay, now that we get the brakes done, one more important thing that has to be done to make sure we can tow safely. She's pretty bad, pretty corroded. All right, pretty simple thing. We're just going to hit it with some contact cleaner. We'll test it and then we'll spray some of this white lithium grease in there just so it doesn't get all corroded again. Alright, so earlier today we got the brakes out on the F150. We cleaned up the trailer lighting. So she's pretty much ready to tow, I would say. There's a little bit of an exhaust leak on it, but I'm not going to worry about that. I think it's a JB Weld deal anyway. I'm not going to buy a new pipe for it now. Maybe at its next inspection we'll have somebody put it's a crossover pipe. It needs to be replaced, I think. But it's got a little pinhole in it. And we'll just JB weld it up for now. It'll be good enough. This old 46 truck will be at the Syracuse Nationals, and we still have a few things to do on her. I know I keep telling you guys that's the last one, but here we are again, right? The old girl has a leaky rear end. It's never good to have a leaky rear end. So what the deal is the previous owners put a new cover on the differential, and I'm assuming when they took the old one off, they snapped one of the bolts off. So there's a bolt missing in there, and they just filled it with RT&V, and it's leaking. It's not holding. So we got a new gasket. We're going to go ahead and pull the cover, drill and retap the hole, and put the bolt back in it and make sure that she doesn't leak anymore. I started the parking brake. I'm not really sure what I measured for the last time, but it's way short. So we got that going on. I'm taking her down for inspection Saturday before the Nationals, so we have to get the new windshield in as well so we can put the new stickers on that. And that's pretty much it. It should be ready to go. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we see some of you guys there. That'd be cool. Let's do a little more work. This is going to give you guys a better idea of what I'm talking about. You can see she's leaking here. Pretty good now. Here's the hole that they RT and V'd up. I'm hoping that they just couldn't find a bolt to put in there and it's not broke off inside there. But if it is, we're going to have to try to drill and retap that. Let's get to doing that. All right, we got the cover off, and you can actually see it is a broken bolt. This is a broken bolt, so we're going to have to try to drill and tap that baby. Everything looks good in there, though. No metal chunks. That's always a good thing. Let's see if we can't get that piece of bolt out of there and retap that hole. Alright, retapped our hole, put a new bolt in there, put a new gasket on. Should be ready to go. Alright, so the F-150 is ready to tow, but here's the deal, fellas. In 2 days we got to get this thing inspected before we go to the Nationals. So we got to get this parking brake installed. We got to get us a horn. One of the high beams is not working again. We got to install the new windshield, and then we're going to test all the circuits, make sure that we're good to go before we take it down there. But going back to having the F-150 ready to tow, here's my plan. At the Syracuse Nationals, there is a swap meet, and there are project cars, I'm sure, there. So rather than have me rush off and grab something to pull it in here to start a video on, I think we're going to wait till next week, which I will be videoing at the Syracuse Nationals for those who can't go or are unable to go. Give you a chance to see what it's all about there. So we'll dedicate a video on that. I know I said I was going to keep this truck for my personal truck, but the wife and I are in the process of trying to move out of New York, moving on to greener pastures, as it were. She is very much into gardening, flowers, vegetables, all that. As you know, I'm into vehicles. We have just outgrown the space we're in, and we figured if we have to move, we might as well go somewhere where it's warm. So we are looking for a larger piece of property, something with some acreage, so she can do her thing, I can do mine. So having said that, the old 46 is going to be up for sale there at the Nationals. I'm thinking that we can probably wheel and deal some cash and a new project for the old 46 here. So that's what the plan is going to be next week. We need to get the last few items here finished and in working order before she goes to the show. So let's get to doing that. Okay, so let's see if we can't get this windshield glass out of here and get the new stuff in. Seems pretty simple, but you know, I'm sure this glass has been in here since day one, so I think it might fight us a little bit. A few screws here, I'm assuming just unscrew. I don't know, I've never done one like this. So I guess we're going to find out together. I'm sure getting this back in is going to be a trick. Well, I can tell you one thing we don't have is this rubber piece that goes down the middle. Didn't even show it in the book, so we're going to have to do something a little creative. Okay, so we got the setting tape. Cut a length of setting tape, pushed it in the channel. So now we're going to try to slide this glass into the channel. See what happens. I'm sure it's going to be very difficult to get it back onto this bracket, but we got to give it a try. So let's do that. Okay, so it's approximately 2.5 hours later. I will tell you this. Got the passenger window out. The setting tape that they sent me is like 3 times as thick as the setting tape that's on this window right now, which means I can't use this to put this window back into that channel because it will not fit. No way, no how. So, given the fact that I've got like 1 day to get this thing done before it goes in for inspection, I had to resort to the old quad exterior sealant for roofs and siding. It's kind of like a rubberized sealer, and that's what we're setting these windows with. This is crap here. Either they sent me the wrong thing or I ordered the wrong thing, but it said windshield setting tape, and it's easily 3 times as thick as what's on here. Needless to say, it's not going to fit in that channel. So we had to do it the shade tree backyard way, but we're going to get this windshield set. Well, fellas, I really hate to admit it, but it took me better part of 4 hours to put that 2 pieces of straight glass. Not having the right setting tape was the biggest issue, but we settled for the next best thing, a little sealant. So, anyway, new glass is in, so we can go ahead and put the new stickers on it. There's only one more thing that needs to be done for inspection, and that is, or actually 2 things. The parking brake needs to be hooked up, and for some reason we don't have a high beam on this side, on the passenger side, so we gotta check that out real quick. So we got our windshield in. I'm not sure what's going on with the high beam on one side. I tested all the wires, everything getting power to it. High beams, I'm not sure what's going on. We have low beams, no problem there. We'll see what they say about that tomorrow. Got our parking brake in. Tomorrow, we'll test all the circuits up in the driveway, lights, blinkers, horn, all that stuff, just to make sure everything's still working before we take it down. So the next video that I'm going to put up will be from the Syracuse Nationals next week. Take you guys along on that. It's a whole weekend deal, so I'll probably just go ahead and put a bunch of different clips together through the entire weekend. We do have our tow rig ready to tow. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully we'll have a new project in here pretty soon. We'll get the Nationals out of the way, and then we'll drag something home. So until next time, take it easy, man.